Anachronox? How do I pronounce this? Anachronox. Anachronox is a 2001 role-playing video game produced by Tom Hall and the Dallas Eon Storm game studio. You start the game as Sly Boots, a private investigator, and in the first scene you see him being thrown out of his office by a goon. It's one of those plots where protagonist owes gangsters money, so protagonist basically has to go out and get the money. That being said, the game is very interesting. You've got different places to explore, and a lot of the time it feels open-world. However, given the game is from 2001, a lot of the character models have not aged well. You got 7 different characters, 8 if you include Fatima, who is basically your cursor. And if there's one thing this game does well, it's the characters. Each character feels unique, and compared to other RPGs, the characters don't feel like a copy and paste from each other. They all seem like they got their own personality and character to them. You got Pow 18, your robot. You got Grumpus, the old man. You got Dr. Roboman, the scientist. You got Democratus. I always feel like I'm pronouncing some of these names wrong. You got Democratus, a shrunken planet. Stiletto, a former companion to Boots. Paco, a washed-up superhero. And as you can probably tell, this game does have humour, but each character does have their own special ability, such as lockpicking or hacking, etc. to get you through the game. Gameplay-wise, you can only have 3 characters in your party, so sometimes it does feel a little bit annoying having to go back and forth to switch out if you need a certain character. You're going to have to go back and forth to switch out, which can get annoying at times. Throughout the game, you will get hostile encounters, as well as bosses. The combat is inspired by old Final Fantasy games, almost taken in turns with the enemy, however it is timed. Sometimes these can feel repetitive, especially when going back and forth an area that has one of these encounters. It feels like a lot of the times where you defeat like an enemy or a bunch of enemies, every time you have to go back to that area, they do come back, so that is kind of annoying. But like most RPGs, you do upgrade your health and weapons throughout the game. The music and voice acting is good for the most part. In fact, going back to the cursor being its own character, another example of something you get in this game that also seems to have lore behind it is save points. You got these creatures throughout the game called Time Minders, who at some points generously spread out through the map, where basically you can just use it to save your game. Okay, very quickly, as I'm editing this and I was gathering some gameplay to put in the video, I did find on the menu that there is actually a way to save the game without Time Minders, and you can basically, there's an option to basically save them any way you want. So that's a little bit that I've noticed whilst editing this video. So yeah, it's a bit odd that these things exist in the first place if you could just save anywhere, or like if that's just an option anyway. So, likeable characters, quality storytelling, but with howlongtobeat.com saying the game takes 28 hours, I feel like it does take longer in your first playthrough. In fact, I was never personally being able to finish this game due to what I believe were bugs. And there were times before where I personally had to go in to hack myself into certain rooms to continue, such as slight spoilers, but I get to a part where I need something to get into a room, but I feel like I did the stuff that I needed to do, but I probably did it in like a weird order. And looking at the gameplay, maybe I just did something wrong. The game does encourage you to explore the whole map, hoping you literally speak to every character you see, which makes it easier to miss things. Because of this, it makes it harder to continue into the game, and the last point I got up to was I basically needed to get into this room, but to get into this room I needed to speak to a certain character, and that character would not spawn in, and maybe he's somewhere else throughout the map, but I literally looked up a bunch of Let's Plays, a bunch of guides, and I could not find him. And maybe that's just a me thing, and it was like I couldn't even cheat and hack through a wall because inside the game's engine, the room was probably like, I think like the door teleports you to somewhere else. So it made it basically harder to progress in the game, which makes it harder for me to recommend because if this, like, even if it is just me and I've like just didn't know where the character was, the game is hard without a guide or watching up a Let's Play. Which definitely takes away some of the fun if you're having to constantly look up a Let's Play or a guide to basically progress. But if you've seen the gameplay and think it's worth giving a go, then who am I to stop you? It is a Windows exclusive and can be quite cheap, especially if there's a sale going on. So hoping this video is at least informative for you to make your own decision. That is the sort of goal with these reviews. Not for me to say yes you should play it or no you shouldn't, just informative enough for you to make your own decisions. So thanks everyone for watching this short review on Anachronox. Let me know if you played the game or think about playing this game, and let me know what you think. But that is it for me for now, so cheers everyone, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.